Let's go ahead and jump in. Thank you everyone for sticking around for one of the last panels of today. My name is Carrie. I work in study abroad. At Vassar. And today I want to first give a shout out, here we go, to acknowledge that this is a panel sponsored by the 7 College Study Away Fair, which was a really special collaboration this year. We hope that all of you have had a really productive time enjoying all of the resources available at the fair today. I also want to thank my colleague Ruby at Mount Holyoke. Ruby, if you want to say hello, who has been a collaborator in putting together this STEM panel today.
Hello, thank you all for being here.
And so next, I'll be really excited to introduce everyone to our speakers for this panel, most importantly. Before we go on to that, I'm going to go ahead and just give an overview of what we hope you'll get out of today's session. So for all of you as STEM students, no matter which exact area within STEM you're studying, we hope that you'll come away from this session with lots of useful information in terms of, one, thinking about why it may be particularly useful for you as a STEM student to incorporate a study abroad experience into your degree and how to integrate it into your curriculum and why you might find that to be beneficial for you as a STEM student. Next, we hope that you'll learn more specifically about the opportunities for STEM students in study abroad. We hope that we'll completely bust the myth for you that STEM students can't study abroad. We're so happy that you're here engaging in information and study abroad. So we hope you're already convinced of that, but we want you to take away some real concrete information on how you can integrate it into your curriculum successfully. And finally, we hope that you'll learn some things to keep in mind in your next steps forward in terms of what to consider for yourself as a STEM student, specifically planning ahead for study abroad, whether that's particular advice in terms of how to make sure everything fits into your schedule or other matters. So I'm going to introduce our speakers in a second and pass it over to them to tell you a little bit about themselves and their organizations, or in the case of our student panelist, the program that she participated in. Before we do that, I just want to mention that we do have a chat where you can input your questions. We will reserve hopefully about 10 minutes at the end for audience questions, but feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time as they pop up, and we'll make sure to circle back to those at the end. So we're so delighted to have here and so thankful to have Julie from DIS Study Abroad in Scandinavia, Jesse from ARCadia University, and Priya, a student at Vassar College who studied abroad this past spring. Before we get into some specific questions for our panelists, we would love to turn it over to them to introduce themselves and a little bit about their organization or their program. So Julie, would you mind kicking us off?
Sure. Hi, I'm Julie Scott. I'm the Director of Institutional Relations at DIS, Study Abroad in Scandinavia. We have programs in the STEM field offered in Copenhagen and Stockholm. And I've listed some of our health programs here that are offered during the semester, as well as many are offered during the summer. So if you're interested in doing research in the future or a pre-med career, we have the biotech program where you can see the kind of the capital of like Copenhagen in southern Sweden, where there's a biotech region working on vaccine development and a lot of hands-on experiences. Our human health and disease program is taught in a Danish hospital where you also get some clinical skills training. We have a program on psychopharmacology, substances in the brain. We have a focus on public health, Denmark's being a social welfare state where you learn about health prioritization and delivery, how do they finance it, and then a program in Stockholm focused more on global health, focusing kind of on migrants and their access, the politics and human rights around that. So in addition to the programs have both a short and a long course integrated faculty-led study tour with them and a lot of field studies. So you're getting a lot of hands-on experience and learning about different opportunities career-wise in these fields. And then we have a number of elective courses, again, within the health sciences. And then to balance that off, we have about 300 elective courses that you could take to meet your general education requirements. What I didn't list here is we also have computer science offerings in Copenhagen, and then starting next fall, we'll have biomedical and environmental engineering offered in Stockholm. So I just was making this very brief.
That's perfect, Julie. Thank you so much for introducing all the amazing opportunities specific to STEM at DIS. I'm going to go for it and ask Jesse to please say a little bit about yourself and ARCadia.
Sure, thank you all for coming. Happy to be here. I'm Jesse Gwynn, the Assistant Dean of STEM. My own background is in biology, and I went on to become a neuroscientist. And before leaving the bench, I left for international education because of all the great opportunities that we can create and connect students to through the programs that we have at ARCadia. So if you go to the next slide, I have a couple of things on there about our programming. So as a biology student, unfortunately, oh, I'm sorry, that seems to be the wrong slide there, but we can still talk over that. As a biology student, I was told that I couldn't go abroad, that I could actually, but I wouldn't get any credit, nor would I be able to graduate on time. So those are two very important things that, that caused me not to study abroad. So unfortunately, I was ill-advised. And so now I'm in the business, thankfully, of spreading the gospel of studying abroad for science students. So what we do at ARCadia is a number of things. We do curriculum matching work, where we work with students like you at whatever college that you're at. You let us know when you would like to study abroad and what courses you'd like to take. And I had a really nice image of a nice grid to show you all of where we would actually create a grid of all of the courses that you could take that would match up to the courses that you would take if you were to study at your home university for that semester. So we not only provide you with the list, the titles of those courses, but also the syllabi that you need and everything to make sure that you're hitting all the right academic notes so that you're well prepared once you come back to your home institution to continue with the next segment of your courses and to most importantly, graduate on time. Another thing that we do, as you can see on the slide here, is that we have our STEM Summer Research programs. We have 8 programs around the world in 5 different countries. And so we have from, again, biology, computer science, all the way to the engineering. So everything under the STEM umbrella, we have a summer research project that's either 6 or 8 weeks that's catered towards you. So with these projects, because you're in country a short time, we have all of the projects listed out on our website. Okay, and so you'll get to click on the titles, you'll see the titles and everything, the description of the project that you'll be involved with, and the required or sometimes suggested backgrounds that you need, and you get to apply for that specific project. Another thing I'd like to notice is that even although you're in the country for a very short time, the opportunity to publish is there. So 2 of the publications that I would have had on the slide to show you all, we had our first publication was a student from Clemson University that published in the Journal of Nanomedicine, where she looked at, blood coagulating agents and things of that nature, just from her 6 weeks down at the University of Queensland in our program in Brisbane, Australia. And our most current publications are from 2 bright young women from Michigan State University that studied at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, where they did a project where they focused on the incidence of male breast cancer in Scotland over a 25-year period. And again, this is just from their 6 weeks of being in the laboratory. Now, every student that comes through this program does not publish, but I just like to use those as examples to know that the opportunity does exist. And with all of the projects that we have for the summer, be they 6 or 8 weeks, are high-level research projects that you'll be engaged in. So you won't just be going abroad to be engaged with the culture and just to wash test tubes, you'll actually be, participating in a meaningful research project in which you can have the opportunity to be listed as a co-author. And then also you get to bring home the really nice tangible deliverable of a research paper in which you own the data and can present that information at any research symposia that you may be involved in once you get back to campus. So with ARCadia Abroad, we just like to let you know that we're very serious about studying abroad within the sciences, and persons like me, myself, and my other colleagues there make it possible for doing a lot of the hard work with connecting you with the right courses, the right research experiences, and the right out of the classroom and out of the laboratory experiences to make sure that you're involved in the culture.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I would love to turn it over next to Priya to hear from the student perspective now, a little bit about your experience being a STEM student, how you went about your journey for study abroad. And then when we get to the questions next, we can get into details on all of your advice. But would you mind go ahead and introducing yourself, Priya?
Yeah, of course. First of all, I'm really happy to be here. And I hope this sort of experience will be helpful for you guys. But my name is Priya. I'm a 4th year at Vassar College. I'm a biochemistry student, and for my semester abroad, I went for the spring semester of my junior year, and the classes that I took were biology of aging, drug discovery and development, molecular basis of human disease, and a psychology class that was offered in a science context, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, so those are the classes that I took. And I don't know if I should go right into sort of my experience as okay. So despite being a STEM student, I know there's sort of an idea floating around that, oh, we have so many credits that we have to complete that it might be hard to fit in a study abroad experience. But I want to tell you that that's not true. Like, if you are dedicated to having a study abroad experience and you kind of know what you want and you have all your credits figured out, you can definitely do it. And, I just wanted to put that out there first, that, it's in your hands. So if you wanted to go study abroad, then, you should talk to your department head, make sure you have all your credits in line. And also it's important to think about transfer credits, since, depending on what classes you take abroad, like, you want to make sure that they'll count towards your major and degree requirements. So those would be my 2 biggest suggestions to get out of the way at the beginning. And once you've taken care of that, I don't see any reason why you couldn't have a wonderful study abroad experience despite being a STEM student. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Priya, and thank you to everyone for those great, helpful introductions. Let's go ahead on to our first question. Why would you recommend that students studying in the STEM fields engage in a study abroad experience? So thinking specifically about the goals of a STEM student and the various pathways that they may be interested in taking going forward more long-term, does any panelist want to jump in with some specific advice on that? Maybe we could start with Priya, if you don't mind, in terms of why you decided to go ahead and make this work for you as a STEM student.
Absolutely. So I think one of the big things for me was that there was some curriculum available at King's, where I studied abroad, that wasn't necessarily available at Vassar. So actually making the decision to go abroad was great to sort of broaden my horizons. And I'm not sure if you know, but King's College in London is a really great research university. So they're focused on research, and a lot of the lectures that I had were given by professionals or experts in that field. So a lot of it revolved around data presentation and talking very specifically about matters that were going on in the real world. So, that was very useful for me. And as a side note, you might also sort of form links between the classes that you're taking and any career goals that you might have as it relates to STEM. I know for me, I'm particularly interested in the sort of skincare and beauty industry. And since I was able to go to London, one of my classes was the biology of aging. And that was particularly pertinent for, my desires and as far as career goes and learning about skin aging. So, just trying to think about how you can form those connections between your goals, both academically and career-wise, with your study abroad experience would help you have really enriching experience, in my opinion.
Thanks, Priya. Very good points there. Julie, you look like you're ready to weigh in here.
Sure. So I think there's a number of reasons why. I think getting the intercultural experience is so important as we are working, in a globalized world. Gaining those skills is important. Being exposed to different career pathways. We have some students that think they're interested in going the pre-med route, and sometimes their experience in the program confirms that, and other times they've realized, well, I think I'd rather go into research instead. And, so there's that. Being exposed to different possibilities in the future of what you can do with a certain degree. If you're studying, if you're biology, biochem, there's a lot of different things you can do, and meeting people in different countries that are working in that field, it expands your possibilities. I think a lot of our students gain contacts from, if they're doing research with different faculty or at the university, different universities. They're often good for building the resume and when they apply to grad school, and maybe future contacts in the, when they start their career. So I think, and gaining a better understanding of people that are different from themselves and being in that position creates.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Julie. Jesse, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to underscore the importance of the intercultural learning and working in a different space. Definitely when the sciences, or once folks to go on into the research and the medical fields, that there will be people from many different places, and having that experience working in a different place and working across cultures would be really, really important. And one also must realize that once you as a STEM student go abroad and you're sitting in the lecture halls, or you're involved with research in a professor's laboratory or out in the field, by effect, you're becoming a part of their academic pedigree. These individuals who have studied in other parts of the world, who are at world-renowned institutions engaging in world-class research, you're right there along with them. And you're making some really great contacts, some really great references that you'll probably be needing for professional school and graduate school. But also just, again, just becoming involved in international experience as a science student just better prepares you for the next step in your lives. And just think that you being a STEM student at your respective institutions is a great thing. You probably have a feather in your cap for all of these great things you've been involved with. Why not add an additional feather, a grand feather of you getting out of your comfort zone to study abroad in an international location, doing a stellar job at that, and bringing back these skills to do an even better job at your home institution. Studying abroad as a STEM student has many great advantages. And I think that if you're able, you should definitely take the opportunity.
Thank you all so much. Great advice. Let's go ahead on to our second question. What's important for students to consider when studying abroad in the STEM field? What particular challenges may a STEM student have, and how would you recommend that they work to overcome those?
As far as what's important for you to consider, I think definitely having an open mind and, knowing that wherever you choose to have your experience, you're going to gain something out of it. I know for me personally, it was a big task to actually pick the program that I wanted to do for study abroad. I actually completely missed the first deadline to declare that I wanted to study abroad in the first place. So I was like, I'm like a science student, like I probably can't do it. But then I couldn't really stop thinking about wanting to do it. And then it kind of just worked out. Like I went to the study abroad office and I talked to them, and they were really great and accommodating. So definitely thinking about thinking about those points. And you're gonna have a great time, but so I also wouldn't stress overly about having the picture perfect experience. You're gonna meet some great people, you're gonna be exposed to some great research, and hopefully you'll have an overall positive experience. Having said that, challenges are always going to be there. For me, the lecture style at King's was something that I wasn't used to. So the lectures kind of ran for about 3 hours. I'm used to like 50 minutes or an hour 15 of lectures, and 3 hours in one sitting was so much for me, and I just couldn't figure out how people were doing this. But I guess just be open to the idea that there are ways to get to your endpoint. There are like multiple ways to get there. So for me, that meant relying on recorded lectures when I had to, taking notes on that, knowing that I could also just sit in lectures and listen to what the lecturer was saying instead of having a perfectly created set of notes. So there are multiple ways to go about it. And I just know that you'll be able to find the solutions to your challenges. And also people are there to help you. Like your study abroad office is there to help you. And in the college or university that you choose to go, they're gonna have a specific group of people, who are dedicated to helping out international students who are there for study abroad. So you have support. So I think you just have to sort of realize that, okay, there are going to be challenges, but I have all the tools that I need to overcome them.
Thanks so much for that, Priya. Jesse, would you like to weigh in on this question?
Sure. I think that one of the greatest challenges that I've heard from students in the past has been, balancing the social aspects along with the academic bits. Much to Priya's point about the delivery of the courses could be quite different a lot of times in lecture style, and even when it comes to assessment, sometimes there may not be as many quizzes. So there's not a lot of touch points to know exactly where you stand with comprehending the material and things of that nature. But, we have staff there on the ground along with their staff at the institution that can help you out with that to make sure that you're staying on track. Again, academics is at the forefront of what you should be doing there, and that's great. But we also want you to be not just stay in that country, but we want you to live there, even if it's for 6 weeks or it's for a full semester. And that's going to involve you getting active outside of, again, the classrooms and your dormitory rooms or apartments. But working with individuals and, finding some best practices, as we like to say, about how to balance you actually staying on top of your studies, but also having a really rewarding experience can be challenging, but it's not impossible. And so it's really good to keep the same, the diligence that you have at your home institution with studying, keep that when you're abroad, even though it's going to be completely different. And typically you shouldn't have too many problems. But I would say that's one of the main issues that students may have with taking some heavy duty science courses, but also trying to have that balance of being involved in the community and seeing the local sites.
Great. Julie, would you like to add some final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that Priya and Jesse shared. I would say also, I'm hoping that there's some like freshmen and sophomores there. So early planning is really important. I think because in the STEM fields, there's requirements and some of it's sequential, to make sure that you can make space to study abroad and get the requirements that you need to take. I'd recommend semester whenever possible, as long as you can be abroad, but there are also great short-term opportunities. You can see what your university offers. There's summer programs. And then, as Jesse had said, there's chances to do research. So if there's something you're doing on campus or you want the opportunity to have to do research abroad, really look at different options and what possibilities are out there, because you can also help shape your experience.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead to our final question. Please do go ahead and put your questions in from the audience into that chat box whenever you're ready. Thanks for that reminder, Ruby. And the last question is, what next steps, so what, some concrete advice from here would you recommend that STEM students take in going forward and pursuing their study abroad? Priya, do you want to start us off with the student perspective on that? You already kind of gave us some great encouragement there in terms of, even if you get a late start, how to keep pursuing study abroad. What other advice would you have for students?
Yeah, so concretely, I think there are a couple of steps that you can take, even after this panel. And one of those steps is, again, making sure you have all your credits and all of that is in line, ideally before you even, start your application for your study abroad. And this might involve talking to your advisor or even your department head to make sure, that you're all set on that front. And having, solidified all of that, I would then recommend that you start looking at what programs are out there and trying to see what you would actually be interested in pursuing. And one of the things that helped me make that decision was making a list of things that I expected out of my study abroad experience. Are you looking for a big school in a big city that is like highly research oriented? Do you want something that's kind of not in the city, something smaller? All of those expectations are going to help you find a program that hopefully is a really great fit for you. And again, I've mentioned this before, but also knowing that, there are a lot of programs out there, but whatever program you do end up choosing, for whatever reason it might be, you are going to get an experience out of it. So I would definitely emphasize that point.
Thanks, Priya. Jesse, what do you think about this last question?
Oh, absolutely, to Priya's point, to find out about the credits, find out what courses that you'll be needing to take and doing the work that you need to do to, ensure that they get approved so that the credit can transfer back. And it's something that we at ARCadia can help you with. With that, also, I would like to students to even think a bit farther afield, as well as like, what are your career aspirations? And from that conversation, if you want to be a physician, if you'd like to be a scientist or a technician working in some field, those are important things too, because what happens is that we can work with you to help you to, to augment the experiences that you'll be having outside, again, of the classroom and the laboratory. So if you want to go into to be a physician, I would recommend probably, studying in our program at the University of Aberdeen. It's where we can offer you clinical shadowing with physicians and nurses so you can see healthcare delivered in that regard. Or if you want to go into industry and you're a computer science student, programs that we have at the University of Victoria, Wellington, where we have individuals who work at the Weta Workshop that brought us such greats as The Lord of the Rings and things of that nature, where you can talk to these people that are in animation. It may not be exactly the field that you want to go into, but we'll connect you with these folks so that you can make those career connections and learn about things that you may not even know about. Because again, all of this is going to really help you and help shape the science student that you are, and hopefully the science professional that you will soon become. Think about what you'd like to do and how those outside of the classroom activities, other than just seeing maybe great local cities or tourist attractions, which is all great, and it's a great experience that you should be involved with, but also there's some other things that we can help you build your community connections with so that you can really come back with an even more clearer target of what you're trying to hit once you complete your degree at your home institution in the sciences.
Excellent. Julie, if you want to bring us home with your advice on this one, and then we'll turn next to our questions from the audience.
I think it's just important to do your research, look at the different offerings that are possible, look at the syllabi, what's available. There's a lot that you can read, the blogs and social media to see what students are doing and what they're learning. I think that's important. To Jesse's point about thinking even beyond, in graduate school, your future career goals. We just had a student who studied in our biomedical or public health program. She's studying in Stockholm now, getting a global health master's. And so there's a lot of places this could lead you. And so I'll end with that.
That's a great point. Just thinking about all of the connections, you know, science is global. We can all agree with that. Study abroad is an amazing way to delve into your topic of study from a new perspective, but also a way to make connections with people from all around the world, no matter what program you do. We do have a few questions from the audience, so let's turn to those. And any panelists, feel free to jump in. It looks like there's one question specific to summer programs.
ARCadia program.
Yeah, are they, for the 8-week programs, are they purely research, or are there other components as well? And about how much time are students spending on their research versus exploring their community around them? Excellent question.
Yeah, that is definitely an excellent question. So for our summer research programs that are 8 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on the program, they are 100% directed research. So there is no classroom time. You will be a part of the laboratory where you'll be along with postdocs, graduate students. Typically, you'll be the only undergraduate student because during the summer in most European places, and Australia is the same way, most of the undergraduates go home to work. And so you'll be the only undergraduate there, but with many people that, you know, can help you out with your research. There will be some, different talks and things like that within the department that you'll be invited to go and attend. But then also with our staff that's there on the ground, we'll be helping to create and build out these out of the laboratory experiences and excursions that you can go on to. So again, for the programs, it's all research all the time. And we typically tell students to mentally prepare yourself to go into the laboratory or out in the field, and how that works from 9 a.m. to 5 o'clock. So just like a job. So you'll be putting in about 40 hours a week towards the research. Right. And so we have, and so over the course of the program, you'll be putting in at least 240 hours towards a research product. And at the end of that, you'll have to give an oral presentation or a poster presentation, along with having to do the research report. That's part of how you're assessed for the program. So yeah, for our summer research programs, no classes, all research all the time in a laboratory.
Okay, great. Julie, would you want to add anything about, you know, students who might have concerns over balancing research and immersion, which I think is a wonderful concern for us to hear us having a student state that they're more interested in. So at DIS, for example, when students are able to get involved in research opportunities as well, what is the approach to that?
So we have a 6-week lab and research option where they can do a research assistantship. We have something on the microbrains lab. We have a new understanding climate change lab, which starts in Copenhagen and then goes for 5 days to Greenland. And part of there is the research component. There's the field studies where you're visiting other organizations as well. And then there is, you know, I think the summer is more abbreviated, so you don't have as much time for the cultural context, but there are opportunities to get involved in the community and explore the city.
Great. We do have a few more questions in queue, so let's keep going through those. One specific question about any advice specifically for math or engineering students. Lily's having trouble finding programs that offer upper level math courses. Certainly there can be very, you know, particular classes that are more tough to find than others on study abroad, and sometimes there's the added challenge of prerequisites that could be required, especially if you're looking for those upper level math classes. I would just put a plug in here to emphasize checking with your study abroad office and your advisor to take a look through the programs that your campus approves, and you know, just taking the time to figure out what might be the best fit. But what do others think? Panelists, Ruby, any other advice more specifically that you would want to add there?
I'll let the providers go first, and then just sort of give some advisor advice.
Okay.
I would say, so DIS does not have any offerings in this area in math, but we do sometimes have a math major who is also minoring in something else or has enough credits that can take a semester without taking, you know, an upper level math class. So that might be appropriate for some students, where you're taking a short term or a semester and getting some of your general education requirements fulfilled. But there are programs for upper division math courses. So again, talk to your advisor at your university or college and do some research if that's what you're looking for.
With us at ARCadia, we have quite a few opportunities and programs that will cater to the math and engineering students who need those upper level courses, which can be difficult to find, but we've put in a lot of work and leverage our really great relationships with the individuals at those institutions to get students access to those. One in particular is the University of Glasgow, where they've, was known for the gravitational waves research that they did in physics and astronomy. They also have a stellar mathematics department, as well as a lot of the institutions that we work with in Australia. So we have those programs, and we have them all mapped out for other institutions, and we'll be happy to share that with you to see if it works for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we usually advise a lot of our students to do is, talk to us and tell us about your goals. What is it that you're looking for in those type of courses when it comes to math or engineering, or what's going to give you the offerings that you want. And so we have a number of programs or providers that we work with, and so we can help you a little bit with the research. So you may be looking in a particular place for just maybe Googling, math and engineering courses, and we can maybe give you a little bit more guidance based on where some of your peers may have gone, some of places where your faculty advisor within the departments may have previously had connections to or made recommendations to, that we can help you do some of those research and assessments.
Excellent. Our next question, and we have time for the other two in the chat, we'll be making perfect timing here, is from Ellis. Any common mistakes people make before going abroad, whether it be about how they chose a program or preparing, anything miscellaneous to know before going abroad? This is a great opportunity to ask a question like that with folks coming at this from many different perspectives. I would love to hear from Priya, if you want to weigh in on kind of your hindsight as a student, anything, not that we would necessarily want to call a mistake, but maybe a lesson learned.
Yeah, so one of the classes that I initially chose to take at King's was a business-related course. And I hadn't realized that at Vassar, you can't transfer over a credit that's from a pre-professional course. So I had to deal with that while I was abroad. And it's not super fun because there's a time difference and, everything's pretty time sensitive. So, things like that, again, I would advise that you figure those things out sort of well in advance of you going abroad. So that again involves talking to your department head or your study abroad office. And as for any miscellaneous things to know prior to going abroad, I would say definitely read up about the culture of the place that you're going to, because it's probably going to be a little bit different from what you're used to. And that includes things like transportation, sort of cultural norms that you might want to know more about, things like that. Yeah, that's sort of what I can think of right now, but yeah.
Thanks so much. Anything you would want to add, Jesse or Julie?
Sure. I think one mistake that I have seen of in the past is science students, I should say, choosing having the destination in mind first. Although it's great, and I know, you may your heart may be set on going to Barcelona, and it is a wonderful city with some great learning going on there. But let's say you are an engineering student, and although Barcelona is great and you could have a really great learning experience there, probably in Spanish or in Catalan, but probably the best place for you would be maybe in another country or a different institution that may be higher ranked or have access to research equipment that you can't get at your home institution. So I like for science students to, instead of thinking about the location first, think about their career aspirations, what they're majoring in, and use that to guide you, because there's some really great opportunities there if you just orient yourself towards your career and what you want to do. And then let the wonderful location in which you'll be doing that abroad be secondary to that. Because again, we want to focus on the academics. And again, you may have the weekends free or during, you know, bank holidays or things of that nature in the country where you can travel to a place that may be of high interest to you, but put the academics at the forefront when you're making your decisions, both the experience that you'll be having as well as the classes that you'll be taking.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's so important. It's kind of like what fits best with your academic and career goals. And then one other thing, I was in a different panel today and we were discussing kind of expectations. And now that we're dealing with a pandemic, thinking about maybe not, like if you're going to study somewhere in Europe, maybe you're not going to have the grand tour of Europe, traveling and thinking of going to so many different places, but really focusing on the country that you're in, and not thinking that you're trying to tick off all the places that you might be able to go, but be intentional, I would say, when you do make plans.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. I see that Ruby has answered our last question in the chat. Thank you so much, Ruby. It was specific to requirements, and always we advise that you consult your advisor and appropriate department on that. I just want to underscore the last point made really by all of our panelists in response to those last questions, which was putting the academics at the forefront as you're thinking about your programs. And I think that particularly for all students, but for STEM students, you'll find that to really be so rewarding if you do take that approach, as you're also considering other factors. Ruby, would you like to add any comments to sum up our panel today?
It's never too early to start planning. I mean, all of this is about planning, whether it's talking about the prerequisites, you know, your prerequisites or where you're going to go, and lining that up with your academic expectations, and even beyond college, that now is the time to just start taking just those little baby steps towards doing that, because it will, you know, it's a lot, but you will get there.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again for attending. We're so happy that you're here exploring information about study abroad, and we hope that every one of you will go ahead and make this a reality for you, just like Priya did. Thank you so much to all of our panelists, Julie, Jesse, and Priya, for being here with us today, and I hope everyone has a good evening today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.